Meeting to order. This is the work session meeting of the Mayor and Council, Monday, October 3rd, 2016. It's 6:30 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting has been made by sending notice on December 18, 2015 to the Ridgewood News and the Record, by positioning on the bulletin board in the lobby of the Borough Hall, and filing a notice of same with the municipal clerk. I'd like to remind all members of the public that we have 3 fire exits in our council chambers, 1 on each side of the dais and 1 in the rear. Roll call, please.
Councilman Mammography.
Present.
Councilman Barloni.
Here.
Councilman Bastille. Here. Councilwoman Davis. Here. Councilwoman Murphy.
Here.
And Councilman Papaleo, who is absent at the moment.
And
Mayor Nino.
Can we have a motion to suspend work session and go into closed session?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? In closed session. 2 topics. Tom, just want to explain quickly on COA. Can I please have a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Papaleo.
Present.
Councilman Barloni.
I'm here.
Councilwoman Bastille. Here. Councilwoman Davis. Here. Councilwoman Murphy.
Here.
And Councilman Papaleo.
Here.
And Mayor Nino.
Here. We don't have any topics for tonight, Alan. Before we go, can I just get a motion to approve the work session consent agenda for tonight, please? It's reimbursement of license certification renewal for Jason Molito, reimbursement of license certification renewal for Stephanie Evans, refund construction bond for shade trees to Quality Construction of property at 233 Beach Court, and the amount not to exceed $8,523.40, and to amend agreement with Richard Merman Consulting Engineer to perform inspections for 711 1080 Main Street, in the amount not to exceed $3,000.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. For discussion, draft ordinance on abandoned properties. Mr. Sarlo?
Yes. So in front of you is a proposed ordinance regarding abandoned properties. First, again, let me apologize for getting this to you late on Friday. I'm sure you were not happy getting a 10-page ordinance on Friday afternoon. It's just one of those weeks that were I just couldn't get to sit down and get to it, whether it was morning, afternoon, or night. But again, it's just for discussion, and certainly we can continue the discussion going forward. Most towns have a vacant and abandoned ordinance. A lot of the towns enacted it during the housing crisis, when the foreclosures were at a high rate and people were leaving, and there was nobody there taking care of the property. You have somewhat of a under your property maintenance. You have somewhat of a I want to say a ban ordinance, but you have something about property maintenance with regard to cleaning the property. However, this ordinance tightens it up, sets some fees with it.
And Mr. Sarlo,
Yes.
doesn't this, I had asked, and I think we're including it now.
Yes.
It expands what's meant by abandoned, because I think one of the cases that we had seen that was problematic was where somebody had started building a house and left it in mid-construction and left it in a poor state condition. And we know Mr. DeRosa was out there a number of times. We couldn't have we had no leverage against the builder to bring the building to some kind of acceptable state. And I believe that the provisions of this now would put some more parameters around what defines
Yes.
like an unprosecuted kind of building permit or something to that effect. Is that correct?
That is correct. There are 2 parts to this. The abandoned property part, that is by statute. It's a New Jersey statute. I can't change those requirements. However, there's also the vacant property one, and that's what we were able to change and include what the mayor is saying in there about changing some of the, including some of the language if it becomes vacant and or abandoned if somebody just leaves it half done, pretty much, and you know, you see no work there. I'll go through the ordinance briefly. The first part is actually there will be a change because you can see there's section 1 definition, section 1 registration, but let's just skip on the numerical part of it. Definitions, again, abandoned property is set by statute. If you go to the registration, here we're talking about vacant property, and here we're saying that any property that becomes vacant or house becomes vacant in 30 calendar days, that owner has to register with the borough now that it becomes vacant. It explains, again, the process with it. Now, the realtors up here may say, well, somebody sells their house, they move somewhere else, they haven't sold their house is now vacant for 30 days. Do they need to register their house because it's vacant? There's nobody living there. I don't believe that is what the intent is of this. The vacant is that it's up for sale. And I was thinking of that, and maybe there could be some type of provision in there that if it is under contract or there is it's under with a real estate broker, that it's up for sale or something like that. My concern would be if somebody just sticks a for sale sign up there and hey, it's under for sale, and you know, how do we govern that? But I was thinking of that, knowing that Councilwoman may raise that. Section 2 is the criteria for abandonment. This is again set by set by statute, and I think it's important because there's been some complaints of some houses regarding that fit right in this category. Responsibility of the owner or agent. This is pretty much if where the notices would go to, and again the requirements, what they need if it's vacant and abandoned. This is coming right from your statute as it is now. It wasn't changed. I incorporated Section 4 that you have under your property and maintenance. I just pretty much cut and paste it. I didn't want to change it because that's what you have now. I incorporated Section 5, access to vacant properties, that your property maintenance inspector has the right if he, to go in once a property is registered as vacant. Fees, I looked around on a bunch of towns, and man, the fees range from registering from $100 to $1,000. And every year thereafter, it went up to $2,500. Montclair was $5,000. It was crazy. So again, I threw in here the fees, $500 or $1,000. That's what you can do, or what you can change. The only other thing that I was concerned about is if the house becomes vacant or deemed abandoned on December 1st, they pay the $500. I believe we have in here that everyone, they have to notify, I believe it's January 31st of the following year, should there be a pro rata for the months of the first year, because they could register December 1st and then come January 31st, they're getting hit with another $1,000.
I think the fees need to be lowered because I don't think the intent is to get fees. I think the intent here is to give the borough authority for our code enforcer to have someone to contact and to remedy these problems. So I think that's the purpose of the ordinance, because it could be someone who's selling the house and it could be vacant, but they're not mowing the lawn or they're not shoveling sidewalk. And right now, this would give Mr. Thoreau the authority then to summons the proper people and get them to remedy the situation. It's more geared toward getting compliance than it is to me about registering and everything like that. I think it would be much simpler than that, at least as far as I see it.
In seeing if there is a violation issued, again, I kept it very broad range. Again, being a prosecutor, you didn't like to be pigeonholed into a dollar amount, so I put in a range of $100 if it was a very minor offense, up to the court has up to $2,000 for each offense, and every offense would occur every day, so it's the same offense. So if the judge found it was a very serious offense, he can go up to $2,000 a day in fines, but he can also go, anywhere the range. So again, that range could be changed. Being a prosecutor, I always like a range. You're able to negotiate. And again, some offenses are less serious than others.
But we also have the authority under this for the borough to effectuate the repairs, correct?
We do under
Section 12?
Section 12. However, that only applies to the abandoned properties, not as to the vacant properties. And that, again, goes by statute. When a property is deemed abandoned, there are New Jersey statute allows for you to do the work, put a lien on it. I didn't see anything as to the vacant. I didn't know if you wanted me to put something on that as to the vacant, if you perform the
I
work.
only, to me, only if there's an issue of life, safety, or health. And again, this comes like we had problems with a house where the sidewalk didn't get shoveled along the Timbercom Act. And then what happens is you can notify them all you want, it's still not gonna get shoveled, and we have 2 feet of snow, and people can't get by. So in a case like that, I think we'd want the authority for DPW to say, we're gonna clear it, and we're gonna bill you, at least for something like that. Maybe if it affects something within the right of way, or something to that effect. That's the only case where I think that the borough needs to have some proactive ability to.
Understood. And I'll go back and look at that statute. If it just says abandoned, we can change it. If it's pretty broad and just says that you have the right to do the work and put a lien on it, doesn't make that distinction, then I'd be fine with the section 12 repair by borough, that it would apply to either or. I'll double check on that, but looking at it now, I think actually, I don't make that distinction. It's just that you have the ability to correct the violation.
You discuss this commercial property, and there's a time period in which you need to see progress in their construction. And I'm wondering, is that time frame you put in there state statute, or is that something that we can discuss? Because right now I think it says 6 months.
I think you can discuss it. There is a model ordinance that the League of Municipalities recommended. So a lot of this was based on the model ordinance. I figured, hey, it's out there. There are a lot of tweaks to it. Again, it's what was incorporated, what the mayor indicated about the construction being half done, that was incorporated, the placing a lien on it. But I could look, but I believe we can look and change that. If I don't cite to a statute, then it's subject to your interpretation.
So I would certainly assert that we should consider reducing the amount of time.
So you're looking
Which section is it?
I can't recall. I
think you're looking at section 2, criteria for determination as abandoned, section 2B.
Okay.
Construction was initiated on the property. Criteria for, now, again, when I talked about abandoned property, that came right from the statute, so I'm going to say, Councilwoman, I'll double check, but I believe that is a state statute, because I believe the criteria for that is set forth in the statute, which you would not be able to.
Okay, but
I'll double check.
Well,
was it under the vacant though too? I know
it does, yes, the question is, can that be
Right.
applicable to
Right.
could we deem it vacant by the same definition?
Well, in my, I do address it in my definition of vacant property. I say any and all lawful construction operations have ceased for a period of at least 3 months.
Okay, because I recall it saying 6 months when it.
That's for your abandoned property.
Okay.
And I'm sorry.
No, I'd like to make that as small a window as possible so that we can see some of these commercial properties come to their fruition.
I guess my question, we have to be a little mindful about what this is meant to address. It's meant to address more about health, safety, and having a viable structure. I don't know if someone has financial difficulties and they're allowed by law not to prosecute their improvements, that we have the jurisdiction to fine them or compel them to finish. To me, it's about the outside. If you have, like, we had a house that's half sided, half framed, or whatever, that's one thing. But if someone has a shell and the house isn't being complete on the inside, I don't know whether that's something that this ordinance was intended to address.
Mayor, I agree that wasn't the original intent, but it may not be a bad idea. We have at least one commercial property that is perpetually unfinished, and the residents have complained about this, and maybe we need to address a little bit of that. In addition to that, Mr. Sarlo, I know that with the vacant issue, that we have at least one residence house that the residents are gone for 6-7 months. It's really I think it's more of a investment property for them. And then if the grass gets overgrown, and when the grass gets overgrown, then there are rodent issues and the other things. So would this ordinance, and I haven't had a chance to read it because, as we said, it only came on Friday, But would the language currently in it allow our code enforcement to address those properties that are not for sale, they're not under construction, but the resident is simply absent?
That was the intent, yes.
So that would. Then my next question would be, how do we determine, how would we determine the moment of the property being vacated? Because we can only act after it's been vacated for a certain period of time. How would we determine that it has been vacated for that period of time?
There is and I was anticipating that, if I could find it, there is there that I believe there is some criteria that your code enforcement officer can make a reasonable determination as to when it was vacated. And going, I believe he's able to go back 3 months based on the length of the grass, the buildup of newspapers and requirements.
Do we think 3 months is too long, or no? 3 months is not too long.
Yeah, I don't know, I think your
I
point.
just closed a property today
Yeah.
that took 8 months, the one on 7th Avenue that had people come up and complain.
And I know that happens
8 months.
sometimes, but I don't know
It's a
that,
HUD property, anything with HUD,
Yeah.
repairs.
I don't know that it's I understand that could happen,
It
and the
happens
government
more
can
than
be
we
low, but I don't know necessarily whether our residents have to endure an adjacent property for that long.
I think it's how it comes to the notice of referral, I think, unfortunately. I think if it's something that the neighbors notice and they notify that there looks like something's going on, then the clock starts. But if it's one of those cases where after the grass is a foot high and nobody called, and then he goes out and has to try to justify the 3 months, that's what we may have the problem.
That's why I'm wondering if 3 months is too long a time.
I think we need.
Because 3 months is never going to actually start.
But I think we need to
at
be
the
more,
moment of
maybe it's,
vacancy.
So we can include some type of paragraph in there or definition as to evidence of vacancy.
I would like that.
And
I think
something
that would be
as to a reasonable person would believe that's been vacant for whatever months you want to put in, and then there are the accumulation of trash, absence of window coverings, high grass. There's a whole thing in here that pretty much allows that. Because you're right. How do we go back and make that determination? He calls, does the clock start from the day that comes
If there's a violation, the notice goes out anyway.
Correct.
It's just whether we get the authority then to go and rectify it. That's what this.
Which would,
Yeah.
no question about it, gives you that authority now.
All right, so will we get another version of it?
I think you need to give me some things as to with regard to fees. You want in there
Well, I'd like to speak to that
changes.
too. I think that if there's not a consequence, and a consequence that would be uncomfortable, then, and I also believe that our courts, especially our local municipal judges, do a very good job of being reasonable. So I think the range of, I think you have 200 to 1,000, 2,000 now.
so.
I think that's a fine range because it then leaves it to the discretion of the judge. In addition to that, I know that these matters never get immediately to the judge, that Artie DeRosa makes every reasonable attempt to speak to the individuals. And so by the time it gets to a judge, it's really been egregious.
You're speaking to violation
Yeah.
fees. I'm talking about the actual registration fees, which are.
Yeah, that's
astronomical.
very high.
Yes, it's $500 and $1,000.
Again, I don't have it in front of me, I
Yeah,
apologize.
So, yeah, I agree with you on those, the judge can have the discretion. I just think the initial registration fee was set at $500, and if not paid within 6 months, it goes to $1,000. Well, these things can be settled within that time, and then we're gonna be trying to fight to get money anyway. So to me, it's not a matter of having high registration fees. Maybe it's a $50 fee, and I don't even know if we have to renew it, because I think these are all gonna be transient kind of situations, so
I think that's reasonable.
We should look at something like that.
So your fee should be,
I would just think whatever, something nominal, I think that's.
Yeah,
what I think.
$50
But,
sounds
it's just whatever to cover the administrative costs of maintaining the paperwork, I think.
you look for just a one-time registration fee of $50.
Unless it was something else. I mean, I don't think we're looking at things which should be vacant for a number of years. There's different issues then if that's the case. And then, speaking to Council's other point, we talked about construction not being prosecuted. Most of those commercial developments are governed by developers agreements, so we have to look at to what the conditions of those are and whether there's going to be conflict with that, so.
Well, then I would like for that to be looked into.
Yeah,
That's
You know,
different, because you can't force somebody, I mean, we have projects all the time, like the project across from Total Wine. That's approved for a bank pad. Developers agreement, so they were supposed to have it constructed within such and such a date. They didn't do anything with it, so now we have an empty lot that they use for parking. So, yes, they probably need the parking, but second, now the borough loses a rateable that was supposed to be built as a condition of the approval they got.
Okay.
So, you know,
But we
you
have-
can't compel them to do it.
We have that, we have the property on Kindergamack that is, that they've never built townhouses on. We have the property further on Kindergamack where it's supposed to open as a delicatessen, and it's never done that. And so if we can tighten up those laws somehow so that we can have, our commercial and residents be, you know, accountable to the rest of the town in a fair and reasonable manner, I'd like for us to try to put that
Yes,
language in.
and I agree, but I guess I'm drawing the distinction about making something that's going to be, I mean, aesthetic, but it is aesthetic, that you don't want it to be an eyesore that's not completely constructed. That's different than compelling someone they have to outfit a building and then open a business, but they
No,
don't have the
I-
financial capability. So, as
I
long as
agree
the outside's
wholeheartedly.
clean, safe, and all the site work's done,
Yeah.
that's, to me, I would be happy with.
Can't compel somebody
Yes,
to
to finish
operate
that,
if it's in compliance with the code and there's
No,
no
but if
violation.
you have a site which is perpetually under construction, site work's not done, and it's muddy looking, and there's half, you know, I understand the conflict.
And that could happen.
And that you want to avoid,
Mhm.
but also I can't say case law, but I know that generally it's very lenient in terms of giving, particularly the past 8 or 9 years, extensions on the building permits under the Quick Extension Act, so we, you know, our hands were also tied to some degree that way with trying to accelerate progress in some cases. But I do agree with you in that case, so. I
That
think
property,
it'll-
with the time goes, don't they just, when they go to zoning, they get it for a period of time and approval?
Well, there was site plan approval, it's not like a variance that could expire quicker. Site plan approvals can expire also, but they would have to come back, but since the Permit Extension Act has allowed them to perpetually ask for 1-year extensions for several years. And at the end of the day, they don't have to develop their property, you can't compel them to develop it. So that happened with, the old government codes. You can't prohibit someone from demolishing a building if they want to, leave it vacant. That's your right, you can knock down your house tomorrow and leave your lot vacant, and the borough can't do anything about it,
And they won't do any.
in any case. So, you have enough direction, Mr. Sarlo, to go?
Yeah, I'm gonna put in there, I'm gonna give you guys a clause to look at regarding the evidence of vacancy that you're a property code enforcement officer. And what I'm hearing is a fee, no renewals, just a one-time registration fee.
Well, hold on.
Mhm.
Councilman Barloni is making a good point.
I mean, I would keep it at the 500 and 1,000. I think a lot of times you're dealing with, you know, there may be administrative costs and follow-ups and additional problems in getting mortgage companies to do what they're supposed to do, especially if you're dealing with foreclosures. Plus, you want to have some incentive, because I know people who've lived next to homes that have been empty for a long time, and there's a psychological impact on the value of their home, as well as just the fact that they're living next to a house that's vacated and abandoned. So I think you want to have some incentive for people and banks
I
to
think
move
there's a
along.
distinction between those two things. I think if someone has a 3-month window where they're closing, and you're gonna make them register this because they're gonna be moving out of the house and leaving it vacant because they're gonna have it closed in 3 months, then you're making them pay that $500 also.
Then maybe we need to have language that says if there's a presumption.
Unless it's an abandonment versus a temporary, maybe there's a
Well,
middle
I
ground,
mean, there
because
might
I
be
think
something
it's-
if they're actively for sale, but sometimes you have properties that aren't for sale and they're just sitting there
Yes.
empty.
But that-
A lot of
that's
them are
different, yeah, that's-
foreclosure.
yeah, and that's
Or
different. That's
foreclosed.
abandonment.
Yeah, and that's different though.
Yes.
That's different than, you know,
So maybe we just have to look at.
somebody decides, you know, I had enough of this, I'm going to Florida, I can't take it anymore, and they leave their house.
What about those people that are going to Florida for
Well, that's
6
what I'm
months?
saying.
You
Yeah.
can't
You don't
make
have
them
to,
register.
yeah, you don't have to pay $500.
You're gonna pay
because it's Florida.
$500 every year because they go to Florida for 6 months?
Yeah. I think we have to.
Yeah, again, I don't think that's the intent of this.
No, that's not.
I don't
think
think
that's
but
the
it's
intent.
gonna be-
Yeah, but that would.
Well, if we have language that
You have to change the
different,
language, right.
differentiates,
Yes,
Right.
and I think that's the point then.
because, you know, with the foreclosures and,
Correct.
that's a totally different
But this
situation.
doesn't say that.
So many
You
of our-
don't have it in front of you.
Well, so hopefully, Mr. Salo can draft language that would differentiate between someone who is seasonal and a property that has been abandoned due to foreclosure or due to,
Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah, I mean,
I understand Council's point on the foreclosures and something that's longer term.
again, your abandonment, again, that's set by the statute, even talks about if they haven't paid property taxes, it's deemed to be abandoned.
But I don't want to make it complicated, Mr. Charles. It would make more sense then to take the
Separate out the
vacant
two?
and put that under our property maintenance ordinance, and then just keep this as abandoned property,
You want to just do an abandoned property,
and then keep that clean, and then take these issues with regard to vacancy and put that under our existing property maintenance. and
so you're
then
talking about now two ordinances.
Just amending the old ordinance
And
to
then
include this line, and then just keep this one clean as
you may
standalone.
do a whole separate article on abandoned property.
Have a separate ordinance on abandoned properties, but then under our property maintenance ordinance, just take another article dealing with vacancies, and I'm just, if it's.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, because in reading the ordinance as drafted,
Mhm. And then
you
have
do have
plenty of
to
room
keep
split it
referencing back and
there.
forth which, so you're talking about abandoned or vacant, and it can be,
You may didn't want to look at your ordinance may be sufficient, then.
I don't think it has that much, but you can certainly review it, but I
All right.
think that some of this language
So
would
we
be
really,
benefit to be in there.
two ordinances, one
for vacant, one for...
adding a whole new article to it, and one amending your existing property maintenance ordinance.
Or you can put this as an article under
And then
property
the-
maintenance, I don't know how you. if you
Yeah,
do that.
and then you
Instead of making this all-
you can even do no fees then when you put your vacant ordinance, because you're not worried about those seasonal people.
No
You have
reconstruction.
somebody selling the house. Your fees are more for the abandonment, the foreclosures.
Yes.
That the bank in Colorado says, hey, fine us all you want, and then you put the lien on, once it's sold, then you collect, so. Okay.
Alan, I can practice law that license too. Right. 2016 best practices, that could be something quick, Alan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The state has a required program where we must answer 30 best practices questions. If we achieve a score of 22, there's no penalty against our state aid. I'm pleased to report that presently we have 23 yes answers, no nos, and 6 not applicable, which give us credit as well. There's one additional policy on tonight, Resolution 359, which will give you 24 yes answers and 6 not applicable. So it doesn't look like we will lose any state aid because of this program. We're required to have it listed tonight for discussion. If you have any questions on any of the best practices, I'll be happy to try and answer those for you. And then the borough staff will be able to send this checklist in by the deadline. If there are any questions, Mayor, I'll be happy to try and answer them.
The other thing, I think I read something about language that they're gonna make non-applicables count as no's, or they're considering something like that.
As far as I know, the not applicables will be
But at least as you said, going forward.
going forward, that may be,
Change that.
yes.
And they're also gonna put more of the aid up front.
Yes, the program used to only attack the last 5% of the Consolidated Municipal Property Tax Relief Act money. Now it will also include your energy receipts tax as well.
Which is
And it's up to the Director of the Division as to how much he will take back. So there was a limit before, but now if you don't achieve the 22 yes answers, then you're subject to losing a significant amount of your aid.
And for the public, that's about $1 million we get.
Correct. Thank you. That's all I have tonight on this.
For them to arbitrarily decide what they're gonna take away. KBG lighting. Bobby, I see you here. Would you like to come up? Mr. Bose? Oh, let me someone call him.
We have Ellie Sharmaton, our vice chair, and Carla Delosio, our commissioner, as well.
So I guess you're just going to review the final, assuming it's the final cost proposal from Musco?
That's correct. It was received today, was sent out to you today. This is revised scope of work and revised scope, which I believe all of you received today. So we're ready to, if you have any questions.
Could I just add a little bit, if I may,
Yes.
Mayor? Mayor, the proposal's for $416,225, but we will get a discount of $11,355 for the sales tax form that we will provide. So that brings our costs down to $404,870. We're left with the question as to the restoration of the site. Musco will do it for $15,000, which would bring the total cost up to $419,870. Or you can decide to have our Department of Public Works do it or contract it out at a later point in time. So as I see it, the decision tonight is whether you want to have Musco do the restoration or not. If you don't want them to do it, we can handle that later on in terms of how it will be done and by whom it will be done. We have 3 resolutions in front of you tonight. One, if you do not have Musco do the restoration, you can make your award tonight. Funds are available for the $404,870. If you want to include the restoration with Musco for $419,870, there are 2 resolutions, one of which would move some money, reallocate some money from the Recreation 2015 maintenance line to this to cover the $15,000. And then a second resolution to make the award at the $419,000. So the staff is prepared for you to make an award tonight, should you choose to do so. The only decision you need to make at this time is whether the restoration would be done either by Musco or by some other means.
I think that 15,000 is excessive for site restoration, particularly if it's raking and seeding. Is that what it says? That seems, it's one of those things where I think if it was lump sum with for credit, they would give us 1,000, but now if they want to pay for it separate, they're charging us 15.
Yes.
Do we know what the DPW approximate would be and how quickly they could do it?
No, I don't have that information.
And
it hasn't been discussed.
It's also, it's less crucial because this is all outside the playing area, right? All the bowls are outside the playing area. So if you're talking about restoring and seeding behind the fence line, I don't think $15,000 should be spent for that. Even if it doesn't get done, I'd rather see John put mulch down than pay $15,000 for basic seeding.
We have the mulch. I agree with the mayor. I don't think we should pay the $15,000.
Bobby, I just want to maybe just reiterate that I had asked Mr. Miller some technical questions, or that he was fully in support of the design concept, that he agrees with the cost estimate we received, that the option that the council will be voting on tonight is in fact the best in terms of technical and fiscal conditions that we could expect for this project.
I believe he did answer those questions to you directly. That's great.
Were your concerns addressed, Councilman?
Yes, then we have to specify in what state will Moscow leave the surface. It could be,
Well, they're just going to excavate around before that footing, so I think it's got to be level.
when they backfill.
Yes. Well, backfilling they'll have to do. That's not right. That's not
So
restoration as far
when
as I'm
we get to
concerned.
the top layer, we're
Right.
not going to leave. We have to leave it in such a state that then we just move in and do the finishing.
Excuse me, Trustee Frida. On the Musco subcontractor responsibilities, number 14, does the contractor is responsible for fill and compact locations where trenches and foundations are installed or demolished. So they are going to fill back what they take out. It'll be the responsibility just to rake, put in possibly some topsoil and seed. And that may be done later, once everything is settled.
And they're gonna have to backfill it, fill around the foundation anyway, they just can't backfill it with the rest of the time, so. Or assuming Mr. Miller or someone else there overseeing the work on behalf of the borough anyway, so.
So I'd be inclined to go with the DPW, not go with the 15,000 personally.
Yes, Councilman.
I would like to make a motion to accept the resolution that appropriates $404,870, and then the separate resolution which allows for $15,000, not to exceed $15,000 for restoration and go outside for that quote. Isn't that the other one?
If necessary.
If necessary.
We could discuss
We
that.
can hold that until.
We can hold that to the other time.
Yeah.
I'd like to make that motion, but I'd also like to state, as a liaison to REC, my thanks to the commissioners and to Bobby for their hard work to make this project. It's been a long labor of love, to get us to this point, so thank you. So I will make that motion, $404,870.
I'll second.
I'm sorry. Okay. Councilman Papaleo seconds, any more discussion?
Isn't that for the regular meeting?
Yes, but we're doing it to put it on.
To put it on.
I just wanted to add that this is not listed for the agenda, so when we get to the agenda, it'll have to be requested by the council to amend the agenda to include this resolution, and Stephanie Evans, the borough clerk, will assign it a number at that time.
So the motion is to put it on.
And can you, make that motion to include amending the agenda for the 8 o'clock meeting?
And I will add to amend the agenda of the public session to include it.
Second again.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, I think there's a lot of unnecessary delay here, but we'll leave that for another time. Just be happy that it's going forward, and hopefully we'll have it all done in the spring.
Yes,
and-
definitely. That's the goal.
Yep, very good, thank you both. Thank you. Quickly, let's get to item 5, date change for November, May council meeting. I'm not going to be able to attend a meeting on the 14th. Is that when we're
Yes, it's the 14th.
So I was, that's right before the league, and I was going to recommend that we have our regular meeting on Monday the 7th at 7 p.m., no work session.
Mayor, in the past, we've moved the regular meeting up, maybe to a 6 o'clock or 6:30 starting time, in deference to the borough clerk, who has to get up very early for the election.
If that works for everybody, we can do it earlier.
Sure.
6 o'clock?
That would be great.
I just had one other thing about the meeting.
Yeah,
I did get some comments about it tonight being Rosh Hashanah, and that we're having a meeting tonight, and I've asked in the past if we could look ahead to the Jewish holidays. I know the zoning attorney asked for that meeting to be changed, and I believe that was denied for Wednesday. So,
Holiday.
Yom Kippur.
Oh, that's next one.
Yeah,
following.
yes. So, if we could just be mindful of
Yes, and I think going into next year, we're going to look at the schedule.
the holidays.
And if you look at, we actually have more Tuesday meetings a lot of times than we have Monday meetings because of Monday holidays. So I think that's something we'll look into before we get into reorganization next year. So,
Let's just be mindful, though, every time we do a Tuesday meeting, we're also in competition with the fire department for parking spaces.
well, but by default, we've been having one Tuesday because of.
We may want to consider it when we can't do Monday, do Wednesday.
Yes, that's what I mean. So
Oh, okay.
That's all right. So, I mean, I don't think we'll be holding to the Mondays, because that's what I'm saying, is because it gets bumped more often than not because of the Monday holidays, particularly when we have them the first week of the month. And Councilman's correct, we need to be more mindful, because it happened with River Edge Day as well. So, something we'll certainly make sure we're more mindful of going into next year.
What time do we decide?
Changes,
7?
To 6 o'clock?
6,
What is 6? 6 o'clock on,
and we canceled the meeting on the 4th.
correct.
So one meeting during November.
1 week in November, and we'll have the regular meeting the first Monday in December.
No work session on
No work
December.
session.
We never do.
No. And I think if something obviously arises, we can always schedule a meeting later in November, but if we get to that Thanksgiving week, and then before the meeting anyway, so I think we should be able to do it. We've seen the muddle through June, July, and August time. Do I have a motion on that, please?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Last item for discussion, Shade Tree Commission?
Yes, Mayor, I asked for this to be put on, the specific issue I want to discuss. I had called our borough attorney and asked him if he could speak to the council about whether or not the Shade Tree Commission has the authority to say no to a borough improvement. Currently, we are looking to put a sign at 140 Knickknack. The Shade Tree was approached about this sign many months ago and said that they would move the tree that the sign would be blocked by. And now they have changed their mind, and they are now saying that they want the borough to pay for it, but there's also the option to cut down the tree. Moving the tree is an expensive amount, so I wanted an opinion from our borough attorney on whether we can direct the DPW director to either what is our authority when we are making improvements on borough property and there are trees that need to be moved. Can we cut it down? Can we move it? Are we not permitted to do it because the Shade Tree supersedes us when it comes to borough improvements?
The answer is when it's a borough project on borough property, you have the right to excavate, remove any trees you need to complete that project. And you do not need Shade Tree approval. Shade Tree cannot hold up a borough project, cannot hold up building a civic center because there's a cherry tree on the property. So the answer is you have every right to remove it. As to cost, well, if you're removing it, you're going to pay.
But we have the right to either move the tree and replant it or cut it down.
Yes.
I don't think this is any different than the case with the tennis courts.
Yeah.
And it was my understanding that whatever was agreed to previously, it was relayed to me through John Lynch, was that Shade Tree said, yeah, take the tree down or move it, but it's not coming out of their budget. That was the way it was told to me. And John said, well, I don't have money either. I said, well, we'll worry about that when the time comes, but I think as far as the authority goes, the council, Sarah was correct, that we have the authority to say.
So I think we've encumbered money for a $7,000 sign. I think that the question then becomes what would be the most cost-effective way to put up that sign. I think removing the tree, cutting the tree down. And so I'd like to, as liaison, to continue to have this discussion with John, find out what he thinks it would cost to remove the tree, and come back to the council and make sure the council, or unless the council is that it's a reasonable price and it can be fit in the budget that we can move forward now.
If there's a big cost, I'm sorry, if there's a big cost on removing and replanting the tree, why don't the mayor and council just agree to plant a new tree in its place somewhere? Wouldn't that be a lot more cost effective?
Well,
replacing one tree with another instead of actually physically moving it?
I don't think we have the budget to move it. I think I'm talking about cutting it down.
Yeah, but if you're concerned about cutting down a tree, in lieu of, you can plant a new tree somewhere, and you're.
We can take a tree from the tree farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want to put up a $7,000 sign that you can't see.
Right.
Yeah. So can Alan direct
I think,
John to move forward with this?
I think John and John has that discretion, whether he can do it in-house himself or if he has to contract, then he has to obviously get his quotes and then find the money in the budget, right? That's the end of it, so.
So if we could just direct Alan, or Alan, if you could just tell John that we've had this discussion, we want him to move forward, and if it seems exorbitant, to let us know.
Is that a motion, Councilman?
That is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Will do, Mayor.
With regard to Shade Tree also, there's still a lot of loose ends that I think that need to be discussed, a lot of loose ends I think we need to move forward with consistent with Sorlow. I guess I had mentioned these several months ago, and I understand the challenges presented by them being a commission. They are autonomous, they can create their own ordinances, and according to Mr. Sorlow says, even the things that we wanted them to do, we can't, or we don't have the authority to make them do it. To me, again, there's some residential friendly features I'd like to see them incorporate. I don't know how they've been with responding to phone calls, but I've still gotten complaints that they haven't gotten callbacks. I'd like to see the website clearer, FAQs. Last time I checked, the tree removal permit link was dead, so people going to look for the information, they can't get it. I mentioned before, I think that the commission needs to give some clear, concise rules with regard to trees and construction. And when there's conflicts between someone wanting to expand their driveway and the tree, that needs to be discussed at the time of the zoning board hearing. You can't have the zoning board grant an approval that assumed removal of a tree and then have the shade tree commission take 5 months to give the approval for the tree to come down, and then decide they don't want it to come down, but then it could be okay to take it down, but at the owner's expense. There has to be some clear-cut rule. There has to be some time frames into which they operate. I think we need some tightening on our tree protection ordinance. I'm talking to some contractors in town who have tens of thousands of dollars in bonds still being held, and I don't think we have firm criteria as to what tree protection requirements we would require at the start of construction that would give a contractor some level of comfort that if he does these things, that he's minimizing or eliminating his chance for damaging a tree. We've had several times where 2 years later, a tree dies, and it could very well be because of construction, but if there's no paper trail in the beginning saying you didn't prepare the tree properly or protect the tree properly, it's very hard, at least for me, to say that, you should be able to not get your money back. So, to me, those are simple rules and things they can put in place, and if it means that they need to adopt an ordinance or a policy or what have you, I would leave that to Mr. Sarlo. And the other one that I keep coming back to is that whether it's through a tree trimming permit or something to that effect, if a resident feels that there's a borough tree that's extending over private property, which they feel is unsafe, they should have a path to have that limb cut, even if it's their own expense. So there should be at least a permit procedure, a review procedure. Obviously, we don't want people cutting down tree limbs and unbalancing trees or whatever, but there could be a protocol in place that they have to have a qualified, tree personnel assess the situation and with the input of the commission. I'm not looking to bypass them, but we all know if my neighbor's tree is hanging over my property, over my garage, I have the right to cut it. We're telling residents of this town that if a borough tree is sticking over your driveway, you don't have the right to cut it, and you have to live with it. And I can tell you it's safe, and I believe that they're all obviously very qualified and very trained, but sometimes a resident just wants to be able to do that proactively, and I don't think that's something that we should not let them at least have the ability to pursue, and some right of appeal to the council in some cases. So those are the general, to me, I think if we had some of these things in place, I think the interaction with the public and the commission, I think would be much more smooth. I think it would be much more amicable, and I think everybody's objectives can still be.
I will bring this up to them.
They're all valid concerns, but again, you're as being an autonomous board, a lot of these things fall not within your jurisdiction to do anything like
Well, I think
policies or procedures. I'll
Well,
take a
these are
look
good
at it.
recommendations.
And
I'll
would
take a
you,
look at
well,
the tree
maybe
protection
at
ordinance.
the next, if you want to come.
Yes, absolutely.
Come
Happy
to the next meeting and
convey the concerns.
And again, I want to stress, to me, these are straightforward recommendations that I think will make things a lot clearer and help them achieve their mission, and also, I said, give the residents some level of authority, because right now they feel that, they don't have any say in these matters, and believe me, I've heard it. You're the mayor and you can't, no, you can't. The council can't either. And we understand we have commissions. We have multiple commissions with these powers, not just shade tree. And, but I think these can be addressed fairly.
And I'll attend the next meeting.
Before we go into the 8 o'clock meeting, Does anybody have any old or new business which is pressing?
It should be quick. I received a complaint from a resident about the lighting on the platform at River Edge Road train station. If we could either contact New Jersey Transit, if it has to do with their actual facility, or if there's borough lighting down there that could be looked at. There's concerns about lights blowing out or not being
Which
running.
location?
The River Edge Road train station. Thank you.
Just, Chief Caridi reached out to me. He had some questions regarding the feedback signs.
Oh.
He was trying to get some price quotes, and he just wanted to see what features and information, that you wanted, because it was different quotes based upon the technology you wanted. So maybe either you or Councilwoman Bastide could reach out to him and just lock that down.
Yes,
I just had a quick thing. I had a few people contact me about painting a blue line in honor for our police. So, Kenneth Mack,
yes, well,
Continental.
I have reached out to the county, those are on our streets. I have not gotten feedback, whether if we're allowed to do it, or if the county has a policy on doing that on a county road.
I have something that someone sent to me, that they sent to the county, that I can forward.
Well, I sent it to the road supervisor and to the director of operations. They have not responded to me officially. So before we would do something, I'd want to make sure that we're okay with the county. That does not preclude us from doing it on the limited striping we do have on Continental or Howland.
Isn't Maine also our street?
No, Maine is county.
Maine has got Grove
And
Street.
Grand, correct, yeah. Most of the major streets in Midland are all county roads, but we can certainly do it on the local streets, if that's what we want to do. But obviously, Tindacomack and Midland are the biggest, and to me, I think the county is going to have to look at the policy, because I've seen other towns where they're suggesting, which I know are county roads. So whether they actually went as far as asking the county permission, I don't know.
They did.
Or-
The other towns did ask the county, and they were given, I have a letter that they have
Well,
giving
if
them.
Mr. Costanza or Mr. Connolly has not got back to me, and we can certainly continue to reach out to them, but we're all on the same page, I think. Anything else?
We're not going to have, on November, a work session. If we get a letter back from the county saying that this is permitted, we would still be able to act.
We'll have a meeting next meeting in October too. Okay. I think we'll be able to do it next meeting.
Okay.
Anything else? Because I don't want to go, unless you want to come back in the work session after the meeting, so.
You could also, if there's something pending out there like that, and you get approval, and you want to act on it, again, a telephone call saying we received it, we'll ratify it at the next council meeting, but a poll saying, yes, you approve of doing it. I mean, if you all approve doing it, you could do it right away, and then ratify it with a resolution at the next meeting.
Before we close, can I have a motion to open the work session to the public, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Should it speak down, Casey, or do you want to wait till after? Sure.
My first question has to do with...
Casey, just give your address for the record, please, so.
It's 259 Adams Avenue. Has to do with the sign. $7,000? Is that how much you pay for the sign? Can I get in on that?
The sign has a life expectancy between 20 and 30 years. Expectancy between, one of our signs we just had redone, was 20 years old.
Kathleen, it's comment time. It's not question and answer.
Yeah, it's coming, no.
It's not question and answer time.
Instead, all I've heard is money being spent. $7,000 for a sign?
This money was appropriated about 3 years ago.
It's being spent now.
Yes, because that's what it,
How they hold back on spending it?
Casey, it was appropriated in the budget and the council voted.
The other
to-
thing is, what is the restoration that has to be done down, I guess it's the KBG?
When they replaced the light poles and they put the new foundations in, they're gonna actually have to disturb a certain radius around the area. So they're talking about restoring that area and leveling it and seeding
I
it.
would think that's the contract.
We should, but the price of $15,000 is disproportionate.
Dirt?
Yes,
You better hold those.
exactly, but that's why we decided it's not worth for them to do it. It's an unusual situation in that we're doing this through a cooperative. I'm sorry?
Is it the committee, the council, that agrees to these type of contracts?
Well, I'm saying this is a little bit of a different situation. We're doing this through a cooperative, and the installation costs are built in through the cooperative. So it's not like we can really have much room to negotiate with the actual installation cost. We could bid it separately, and I had floated that at one point. But I don't think the cost, because we would have to develop a whole new set of plans and specifications for the site work, go through the public bidding process and all that. I don't think, at the end of the day, we would get substantial savings to justify that than what we're paying to the co-op, with the exception of this $15,000 item, which I don't think is worth it.
Why do they have to replace the lights if they don't work at all?
The lights are, they're antiquated, and more importantly, we don't have safe lighting levels on the field level. The lights are 30-plus years old, and it's a safety concern. I think the council was prudent in trying to not spend all this money at one time. This money's been put away over several years. We ran into this glitch at the end because of this issue with the foundations, but even that, I think, and I'll take some credit for value engineering it, I think we pushed the cost down to where we, it was close to where the original budget
Where
was.
was it before that you pushed it down to where you are now?
Well, at one point, this was looking at it to be a $600,000 project, and tonight we approved it for $4. So I think
I believe you're saying must go.
Must go.
something like that.
Yes.
They also have portable lighting that can be moved to where you need it. You know, maybe you don't need it right behind third base tonight, maybe you need it further out in left field. It can be moved by using a
That's-
small truck.
but these, I mean, they're 75-foot high poles. They're not ground lights, and you need to get the even distribution. It's incumbent on them with doing their lighting analysis and showing that they have the proper foot candle distribution. They need
There's
whatever.
no way to, make the lighting better with what you have.
No, that was
The whole light, not just the, hole in the wall.
no. We explored all that, and there's also an issue whether you would be able to maintain the integrity of the existing foundations. If you try to,
Not going anywhere.
no, but if you start trying to remove the heads of the lights and you start putting pressure on it, and you induce some moments on those poles, yes, you can displace it, and then
They've lasted through storms.
yes. It's not a question of the existing light, but they're not adequate and they cannot be retrofit. And there's also an incidental cost saving, long-term cost savings with the lighting if they're more efficient. So I don't necessarily see if you're going to realize all those savings, but that is a component.
Where's the savings?
In the less, yes, the power consumption on the bulbs, and also the replacement, they're longer lasting compared to what we pay annually now to replace the bulbs.
What's wrong with a solar power panel?
You would not be able to get that kind of power. Remember, a 3x5 solar panel gives you 190 watts of power.
I don't know what it is.
Well, I'm telling you, that's 3x5 does. If you look at them on the PSE&G poles, 3x5 gives you about 190 watts. So think of your 100-watt bulbs. That's what that powers. Solar is not as efficient as people may think it is.
Maybe it's a bigger panel than you put there.
You would need.
Mayor, maybe this should be discussed after the meeting. I'm sure.
Yeah, but it's a legitimate question how we came to our conclusion.
Yeah.
And I think I'm comfortable with the conclusion that the council has moved on. So, any other technical questions, we can certainly get to the information piece.
Can I go back to my first question?
Yes.
What is this sign? What is it? A welcome to River Edge sign?
Yes, it is. A wooden sign, like I guess similar to what we have in.
All around the town.
Yes, or even in Hackett, or coming into River
Is
Edge.
this replacing one that's there now?
No, this is a new sign at 140 Kinderkamack. I think it's 140 Kinderkamack, the corner, yes. It's, I think, if you notice the progress down there, the aesthetic requirements that the planning board imposed on the new 7-Eleven, I think that corner is really being cleaned up. It's going to be something that I think is going to be a positive as an entry to the town as compared to what was there. And I think that parks, that is the gateway to River Edge now. And I think it's not a bad thing to have the sign.
My last question would be, would the ordinance that you were talking about earlier with the abandoned homes and vacant homes, is that a large problem here in town? The abandoned homes?
I don't know if I would characterize it necessarily as large, but it's happened at least a half a dozen times since I've been on the council, and they become protracted problems, which require a lot of resources and council time and effort on the police and then on the building department and on the code enforcer. And I think if we had these tools behind us, then we would get resolution to these situations much more quickly.
I don't know how to pick out those type of homes. I'd have to ask my son-in-law, he's into that. That's his business. And if he knew that there was a lot of them here in town, he'd be buying them left and right.
It's not necessarily a matter of buying them sometimes. Sometimes it's foreclosure. Sometimes it's people just not prosecuting their
So that's
construction.
foreclosures
So,
and banks,
so,
making a very good living out of it the last 20 years.
no one's gonna argue that. And,
Thanks.
and anything, and Casey, I know you had sent several emails in the follow-up. I think most of the issues have been addressed. There was a glitch with the council meetings going up on YouTube. I think that's been resolved.
Yeah, that's all straightened out.
You had asked a question about Fifth Avenue. That's not a bike lane, it's a shared, what they call a sharrow.
It's got bicycle.
Yes, but it's not a bike lane. It's meant
And as you're
to,
going up the street, there's a sign that says, share the road
yes,
or
and that's
something
the
like that.
intent. It's meant to
And
be,
that's behind a tree.
well, that could be looked at, but the intent is, there wasn't enough physical room for a bike lane. My personal opinion was that a bike lane was not appropriate anyway, but the sharrows are an attempt to at least make people mindful. Yes, and it's to make people mindful that there could be bicycles on the road, and the sharrows are placed according to the MUTCD, offset from the curb, so bicyclists are not going to be nailed by a car door opening. They're all set by parameters, but they're engineered parameters that we don't deviate
I don't
from.
know if you've also gotten an email that I sent Alan a couple times about a house that's up at the corner of Wayne and Fifth.
Yes, we haven't, I haven't got an answer back from the code enforcement or the zoning officer, but it was forwarded to them.
Because I've gone by there a couple times, not on this, my other one. And I'm out in the car park lane, I'm right near the curb.
Mhm.
And they've come across the sidewalk.
No, it's been brought to their attention, and Stephanie will follow up with
How
that.
did they get it to begin with?
That, I don't have the answer for that right now, so if it's not legal, it'll be addressed. If it's legal, then they'll have to explain what the conditions are. And the last question you had asked, and I did not get back to you, you asked about the rating system for the roads. I think John Lynch uses a modified version of a inspection system that the Asphalt Institute codifies, and it basically is different criteria on road condition, and you wind up with a numerical score. And in the way John has it rated, anything from 85 to 100 is rated as good, 70 to 85 is fair, 55 to 70 is poor, and less than 55 is very poor. And so let me say, as of now, the last, we have at least 10 or 12 streets which range in ratings from 18 up to 55. Those get first priority. To your point with the issue on Valley Road, what this rating system doesn't necessarily take into account is you may have one small section of road which is very poor. And that's something that we need to look at modifying, because you may have a half a block or one block which may in itself be very bad. And by looking at a road, yes, I have. That section you're talking about, I believe it does need to be repaired. But you asked about the rating system, I gave, no, that's what I'm saying, but if you looked at the length of it, it would not qualify, but if you look at that one section, it would. So, maybe John has to look at maybe modifying to take some of those very bad, smaller sections into account, so those can get repaired quicker. So, that was the other question you asked.
I think after I sent you the email about that, I guess the DPW came up, somebody was marking around some of the holes with a white spray can. And a couple of the holes have been fixed with, patch.
Mhm.
That won't even make it through the winter.
Well, but it's on the radar, and I talked to John about modifying the scoring system to take into account maybe some localized areas, so we'll look to do that also. Okay.
My suggestion for any road that you want to get paved again, find out who the contractor was that paved Route 4 between Teaneck and Englewood 45 years ago. It's still in better shape than no roads in town.
And if we weren't subject to local public bidding laws, and we'd be able to get that contract. And also we work with a cooperative, but Points well noted. Do you want to speak now, or did you wait till the next session? Name? Yeah, please come up to the mic so we can get you recorded, please.
We live on the corner of Center and Penny. 2 years ago, when they put in the wheelchair access curbs,
They killed the tree.
we have a huge, I mean, I have pictures here, a pine tree that was perfectly fine. We've been living here for 30 years. This tree was much smaller when we moved in. It's now huge. The tree started to die right after because they cut the root system on 2 sides of the tree. And it is dying.
To lower the,
To lower the,
building.
right, okay, because they lowered the walkway. So the tree actually is sitting, I would say, about that much off of the walkway. So they cut all of the roots on 2 sides of the tree.
And killed the tree.
And the tree is dying. I mean, it's gotten worse since Kathleen stopped at my house and saw it. And the tree has got to come down before it falls on somebody's house. Or my neighbor across the street.
Can we have it taken
On
down?
private property, or is it in the?
No,
public
I
right of
think
way?
what the project was just done under, and that's the first thing. If there was it done under the county project, or was it under CDBG?
Probably
No.
CDBG.
The second question is, when did that expire, and do we still have a maintenance bond in place? If not, then we have to decide if it's the borough's responsibility at that point.
We can check on the maintenance bond.
I mean, I did take a look at it, it is dying from the top down.
I'm not disputing, but I'm
Yeah.
saying it's about the process, so if it's,
Yeah, but I mean,
what I'm
it's not
getting
that-
at is if we still, if it's within a certain time frame, we can go back to the contractor,
Mhm.
and he has put a bond up, and we can use that money to take the tree down.
Okay.
If he's not around, or if that's expired, then it's incumbent on us to decide if then we're gonna do it. So Mr. Negron will find that out, and then we'll get back to you as to what the
Can
recourse.
you, do you wanna give him your, do you have an email? I think you use email, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to give it publicly, you can.
No,
you
you can write it down.
No, but you're being recorded, I don't know if you wanna give your email in, so, and,
I mean, how soon will we hear back? Because
Just
I
give
had
your
to call
address.
neighbors to find out how to get in touch, because I've been leaving messages after messages on the Shade Tree Commission phone number.
yeah, and it would,
and
I don't wanna get into culpability, because
I
obviously
know,
this is an
exactly.
issue with the construction. I don't know, whether the borough inspectors are out, so we can't worry about that right now. So let's find out which project it was associated with,
you wanna
the
give your
timeframe
picture?
involved, and then we'll figure out how to rectify it.
Yeah, can give it to
Yeah,
Al.
no, I don't think anyone was disputing your claim, so. Anything else?
That's all the pictures?
No, not all of them, just
some nice pictures.
No one, I don't think anybody's refuting your claim. It's a matter of looking at the process,
yeah,
so.
I mean, it killed the grass because of all the pine, I mean, Kathleen saw the pine needles and the pine cones that are coming down. I mean, I fill up giant garbage pails filled with pine cones.
Mr. Negron will get you an answer as soon as he.
Look into the bond tomorrow.
Thank
Do you wanna give me their email?
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? We have a motion to adjourn work session, please.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Yep. Exciting, isn't it?
You guys do a lot of work, a lot of TV stuff. Okay, thank you.
Good night. Are we ready to start again, Madam Clerk? Call this meeting order. This is the regular meeting of the Mayor and Council, Monday, October 3rd, 2016. We're a little late, it's 8:20 p.m. Can I please ask everyone to rise for a moment of silent prayer? And I'm going to ask if we could remember 3 borough residents this evening. Raider Amundsen, who was a former Scoutmaster, Troop 95, and a longtime choir member at Great Lutheran Church. Roger Hall, who was a deacon at the First Congregational Church. And a friend of mine, Tom Maloney. He was a River Edge Little League and softball coach, and overall, all-around good guy. Mr. Negri, would you lead us in salute to the flag, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been made by sending notice on December 18, 2015 to the Ridgewood News and the Record, by positioning on the bulletin board in the lobby of the Borough Hall and filing a notice of the same with the municipal clerk. I would like to remind all members of the public that we have 3 fire exits in our council chambers, 1 on each side of the dais and 1 in the rear. In addition, we're being recorded by both audio and video for purposes of creating a record during the public portion of the meeting. If any member of the public wishes to be recorded or heard, they need only identify themselves for the record, and they may make a statement or ask any question they would like. Roll call, please.
President. Here.
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 Here. Here. Here. Can I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the Mayor and Council work session and regular meeting of September 19, 2016?
Abstain.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have 3 proclamations on for this evening. I don't know if we have anybody willing to accept them. But we have, the first one is for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I'm just going to read something into the record. Whereas in the United States, breast cancer is the 3rd most common cause of cancer deaths after lung cancer and colon cancer, whereas during National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we renew our commitment to fighting this disease, raising awareness, and supporting those affected by breast cancer. Whereas death rates from breast cancer have been declining, and this change is believed to be the result of early detection and improved treatment, and whereas mammography is recognized as the single most effective method of detecting breast changes that may be cancer long before physical symptoms can be seen or felt. Whereas October 17, 2016 is National Mammography Day, a day set aside to promote the importance of regular screening and the early detection and prompt treatment of breast cancer. And whereas we recognize the innovative, life-saving work of medical professionals through their efforts to prevent, detect, and treat, make a difference in the lives of our citizens. Now therefore be it resolved that I, as Mayor of the Borough of River Edge, and on behalf of the council, do proclaim October 2016 as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I have a personal connection. My mother did die of breast cancer, so it's very important that we get the word out for early detection and treatment, because it is more curable than it's been in a long time, so awareness is always positive.
It is. My wife's mother died when she was 22 of breast cancer. And, so many of us are connected to that.
We have a second proclamation declaring October 9th through 15th as Fire Prevention Week. Whereas cooking, heating, and electrical fires represent 3 of the nation's leading causes of home fires and are collectively responsible for nearly half of all home fires and almost 1/3 of the associated fire deaths. And whereas the vast majority of home cooking, heating, and electrical fires can be prevented by taking simple safety precautions. And whereas developing a home fire escape plan and practicing it at least twice a year are critical to escaping a fire safely. And whereas proper installation, testing, and maintenance of smoke alarms are part of a thorough home fire escape plan. And whereas by preventing the leading causes of home fires and by developing and practicing a thorough home fire escape plan, people can greatly reduce their risk for fire. And whereas the Fire Prevention Week 2016 theme, Don't Wait, Check the Date, Replace Smoke Alarms Every 10 Years, encourages the public to develop a home fire escape plan and make sure they have working smoke alarms. And whereas the fire service of the Borough River Edge is dedicated to the safety of life and protection of property from the devastating effects of fire. And whereas the members of the fire service are joined by other concerned citizens of this Borough River Edge, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, as well as other emergency service providers and safety advocates, businesses, schools, service clubs, and organizations in their fire safety efforts. And whereas I, as Mayor of the Borough of River Edge, do hereby proclaim the week of October 9 to 15 as Fire Prevention Week. This week commemorates the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, which killed more than 250 persons, left 100,000 homeless, and destroyed more than 17,400 buildings. Whereas I call upon the people of the Borough of River Edge to participate in fire prevention activities at home, work, and school, and to take the steps needed to make their homes and families safe from the leading causes of home fires, which include cooking, heating, and electrical fires, and plan and practice their home fire escape. Again, very important. I know members of the fire department do routinely go out to the schools during Fire Prevention Week. And obviously, again, we thank all our members of our fire service for their volunteer and their dedication to protecting our lives and property. A last-minute addition for a proclamation declaring the month of October as Italian American Heritage Month.
There was nothing we could do. Mayor, if you don't mind, I think they should be given to the...
Well, I mean, then we will... Whereas, since our nation's inception and throughout our history, brave men, women, and children, yearning for freedom and opportunity, made their journey to the United States in search of a better life. And whereas, from early explorers to the 5.5 million immigrants of the early 20th century, Italian Americans have helped shape and develop our nation. And whereas, coinciding with festivities surrounding Columbus Day, National Italian American Heritage Month recognizes the many achievements, contribution, and successes of Americans of Italian descent. And whereas Italian American citizens have made significant economic and cultural contributions to our nation, state, and community, and their influences can be found in every walk of life. Now therefore be it resolved that I, as Mayor of the Borough of River Edge, in recognition thereof, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2016 as Italian American Heritage Month, and we'll say it's October 4th. Sure. October 14th, I think, is Vito Aquafrida Day in the Borough of River Edge. So, and to the councilman's point, at least I don't know if there's ever been more people of Italian descent up on the dais.
We lost a couple.
No, but anyway.
There were some very good additions.
Anyway, Councilman, you can accept the proclamation?
Well,
What do you want to...
I think Italian American.
Excuse me?
What is?
Italian American?
Mm-hmm.
Italian American means, for your information, once and for all,
Great.
it means that you were born in Italy and you came to the United States. If you were American Italian, it means that you were born in the United
Thank you.
States with Italian family.
Thank you.
Good.
And I think
Don't make that mistake.
And I think
again.
we're
Okay.
well, Councilman, we're recognizing people of Italian descent also, but yes, your point.
Italian descent, because of what's written in the proclamation, technically I don't fit
Yes.
that. It's earlier 20th century, so are people that came here during the latest immigration, 1890s to 1920s.
But you are a naturalized citizen, so you are...
I am, 1979, September 14th.
You count. So, anyway,
Thank you.
can I have a motion open to the public for any comments or questions regarding the agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody have any questions or comments about any specific agenda item? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the...
So moved.
public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a public hearing tonight for, I guess, for our Bergen County Open Space Trust Fund application, KBG Field Lights Improvement Project. Can I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Point of procedure, if I could just ask Alan, should we go through the hearing?
Well, you can take comments, but as long as there's no motion to move an application, then it's really not going to, have any impact, but certainly be open to the public if they have any questions.
When the actual application date, October?
October 18th, I believe.
Anyway, this is for receiving public comment within the statutory required timeframe. So can I have a motion to open, please?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Pistoia?
Yes.
Councilman Ballard?
Yes.
Councilwoman Christie?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hart?
Yes.
Councilman Papalaria.
Yes.
And the borough is submitting an application to the Bergen County Open Space Trust. I believe,
And, we will not be submitting an application to the trust since we intend to award the contract tonight with funds that are available. This would be in addition to what we have available for the contract. So unless the council sees a purpose to filing an application for additional funding above the $404,000, there would be no need to submit an application.
well, I think it depends on how this is structured for payout. Are we paying the whole thing out now, or is it going to be partial? Because if it's partial, this can be credited towards our outlay before the conclusion of the project.
I don't have any information as to how it's going to be paid out.
So
We
did
have
you miss
two-
your time? No, it was one, right?
Yes, we have two members of our commission.
So when, we had put in a letter of intent to the Bergen County Open Space for additional funds because we thought we were going to need an additional $200,000 for the lights. Since we don't need that anymore, we have a project that we were wondering if you wanted to go out, I guess, for the, open space. It's for, we have quotes if you would like.
We didn't advertise the public hearing for another project.
Okay, that's fine, we just.
We can hear what you want to do, but
Okay.
we would have to have another public hearing.
Do you want the,
Yes.
And may I have to add that we're out of time for another public hearing. The rule as I have it in front of me indicates that you have to do an advertisement. It has to be the advertisement has to be 15 days prior to the public hearing. And the application is due in on the 18th, unfortunately.
Mayor,
Yes.
having heard what Alan said and understanding what he said, is there a way, if the council wants to proceed with this, to appeal to the county, to waive that time frame or give us an extension, considering our circumstances?
Or alternatively, we submit the project that we said we're going to permit and then ask for a change when we go to the regional meetings, which they'll accommodate.
So that's a better
That might
strategy.
it might be cleaner because then we have our public hearing on the project that we were submitting. And I think we have to say it's contingent on Alan finding out because, truth be told, if we have to pay all the money for the project prior to the end of the year, then it's moot. If it's something that we pay out over in installments, the council certainly could still consider whether we want to get $30,000 or $40,000 back from the county towards the project, to lower that cost also. But that could be decided later on. So I think that might be the better way to go at this point, rather than jeopardizing a technical deficiency in terms of not meeting the requirements of the hearing requirements. So
should we hear the presentation?
I think we still hear what they. I still think we hear what it's public comments.
So the two clips that we have, the first one is for the Memorial Park basketball reconstruction project. So I think it was in January we had explained that the basketball court, there's a lot of cracks in it, and I think Mary, you had said that why keep repairing it when it's ultimately going to crack again. So the reconstruction is the first. That one is $40,800 to completely reconstruct the basketball court. And then the other quote we have is just to repair Brookside. And that one is for $15,750. And that's to repair all the cracks and, coat and line. So the total of that would be $56,550. And we'd be asking for half from open space, Bergen County, which would be $28,275. With the match rate.
That seems plausible to me. And just further point, Councilman, Bobby and I had met with Mr. Batamarco, who's the director of open space, regarding TBG in particular. And the reason he had explained to us why they had this unusual procedure here about this letter of intent, because usually that's something they don't do, was essentially, what happens is that I think everybody who's been doing open space funding now for the last 10 years, we know what the allocations are. You know, you're talking about, you know, for the region, or sub-region, in the order of $250,000 to $280,000. But you still have towns coming in asking for for projects that are costing several $100,000. So the intent, from what I understood, was to get the letters of intent in to see if towns were going to actually be able to complete those big projects, knowing that they're not going to get that kind of money from open space. And it was more for them to get a feel as to who really had, I hate to use the term, shovel-ready projects, but who was ready and being able to pay for them. And that's what the intent was. So that's why I think that as long as they know we have a serious project, that if we even have to change the scope later on, I think that would be something they would be amenable to. But this would be the commission's recommendation.
This is your recommendation, yeah.
Joint improvements to basketball courts.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just carry on, or
No, that's fine, we can follow through with the application.
a motion to close?
So moved.
Public hearing?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Appointment personnel changes. Can I please have a motion to approve the satisfactory completion of the six-month probationary period for Lisa Slakowski, Deputy Court Administrator, and salary increase from the probationary rate of $16 to step one, $19.18, effective October 5th, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I have a motion to approve the salary increase and satisfactory completion of the six-month probationary period of Peter DeVries, Fire Inspector, from a step one hourly rate of $22.50 to step two, $23.75, effective October 4, 2016.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have various correspondence on file, Borough Clerk, including monthly reports, Shade Tree Commission, January, February, March, April, June, November, and December 2015, and January, February, April, May, and June 2016, and Tax Collector 2016. There are no ordinances on for first reading and no ordinances on for second reading.
We need a motion at this point, right? For the resolution that we had mentioned before.
Yes.
Yes.
We can do that now, or yes, or
That is, but we don't have a number for it yet. Okay.
16373.
what is it?
16373.
So,
Sure.
do you want to just make the motion, Councilman, because you've made it before, and just read the title if you have it in front of you, because I don't have it in front of me, with the amount.
I just need to make the motion to approve it, yes?
Yes.
I would make a motion to approve Resolution 16373, approve lighting improvement purchase for Kenneth B. George Park in the amount of $404,870.
1 second. Alan's asking where 372 is.
Is that,
Is that this one?
Is the amend 2016 budget.
Oh, it's not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda.
It's not listed on the agenda. Okay. Okay, no, so that's,
373 first?
Okay.
So I made that motion.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We also have resolutions by consent, 16354, 16370, and 16372. Would any member of council like for separate consideration or discussion any of those? If not, can I have a motion to approve consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilman Steve, please read and move resolution 16-371, payment of bills.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas vouchers for the payment of goods and services rendered to the Borough of River Edge have been received, and whereas each bill has been checked by the receiving department, approved by the Chief Financial Officer and Borough Clerk, and reviewed by the 3 members of the Finance Committee. Now therefore be it resolved that bills as listed now be confirmed for payment from the appropriate funds as follows. Current account, $1,699,192.67. Recreation account, $3,051.43. Animal welfare account, $225. Trust other account, $20,165.70. Open space account, $2,906.85.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now is our second opportunity for, hearing from the public. Can I have a motion open to the public, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any member of the public like to make any comment, ask any question on any item? Ma'am? Please come forward to the microphone so we can record you, please. And just name and address for the record.
Nancy Russell, 737 Ave, River Edge, New Jersey. Okay. I'm just following up on a couple of things. One, I thought something was going on with the Shade Tree Commission here tonight. I thought that was an agenda item.
We had some discussion at work session.
Oh, okay. All right. And the other thing is that, nothing has changed on 7th Avenue in regard to the,
Vehicle.
yeah, the
Mr.
two vehicles.
DeRosa issued a violation. I believe they had until October or something to comply, and then we'll have to follow up with Mr. DeRosa to see what the next step is.
Yeah, 30 days.
30 days from when,
It went to court.
okay. All right, because again, we're in the dark. We weren't able,
Well,
he was away
that's-
on vacation,
yeah.
and so we were just trying to figure out what was going on with
I
that.
did, let Leanne know that.
He did?
No, I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess it didn't get through our grapevine, because Cindy was supposed to be here tonight and I wasn't, so I had a feeling for Cindy. Okay, that's pretty much all I wanted to ask about, is those two things, one with the Shade Tree Commission, and then the one thing with the two trucks. Okay, great, thank you. Have a good night.
Anybody else? Michelle? Lou? Mr. Grosso? Oh. I guess he doesn't want to let us leave too early then.
Ignite.
Hello, everyone. Lou Grasso, 172 Lozier Terrace. I had a question where you're discussing earlier in the meeting in regards to what is the criteria for a vacant home. I didn't catch the entire thing, but I think to avoid problems with people that do go on vacation and they would be away for months and they go south, there should be a criteria where not only, I'm not sure what the determination is, how, you know, the town would arrive that the home is vacant. I think it should be accompanied by, to declare a vacant home where the person has to pay the registration fee, the vacant, part of the criteria should be that there's violations. I mean, if the person goes to Florida and they have the landscaper there cutting the grass and the snow shovel and everything else, they shouldn't have to register and pay a fee for a vacant home.
I brought that up.
Yes, I think that's, that's the intent.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's, if that's some specific case, that would not be applicable under the ordinance. You know, that's not the intent of the ordinance.
Right, I realize it's to address.
Yeah,
the-
and if it's a loophole, yeah, then that's why we asked Mr. Stoller to look at a couple little loopholes that we found just by going through it this evening, that he'll tighten up the language and make sure that we don't have unintended consequences.
Right. No, I understand there's a problem. I've seen over the years lots of vacant homes and,
Yep.
you know, grass high. I mean, one that always comes to mind is that one on Spring Valley Road. You know, they haven't lived one in 2 years. It's a problem. Okay.
That's it. No, appreciate the comment, because, again, we're going through the process, and sometimes it takes a couple iterations for us to sort through, either conflicts or loopholes or, you know, holes themselves in the ordinance that we haven't thought about, so that's why
Right.
we don't necessarily want to rush into it and put something out there that will be a burden on the residents, because that's not the intent, and you don't want to have unintended consequences. Now have, you know, 75 or 100 families who may go to Florida now, having to worry about registering their house as being vacant, so
Right.
we'll make sure that that's addressed before we go.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Sure.
Anybody else? Michelle, last one? Are we ready to proceed with 140 and when the tree gets moved? When, is the sign been ordered? I guess that's the question. Because it could take,
Mayor, I don't think the sign has been ordered. I think that was what prompted the whole discussion. John was checking with Shade Tree that the agreement that they had made was still in effect, and he was going to order it and make sure that the tree would be moved before it arrived, and that's when this whole concern arose. That's
I think we'll be okay. So no other comments, can I have a motion to close the hearing to the public?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, council comments, Councilman Murphy?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. From the Environmental Commission, there's a river cleanup this Saturday, October 8th, from 1 to 5. It'll be with Oradell and New Milford. I got notice that we did get the van, and that we'll be able to ferry people from KBG to Oradell. So please come and volunteer to help clean up the river. The library, and their meeting, that is Saturday, October 8th. The library, their meeting is October 4th, tomorrow at 7 o'clock. They did get $18,000 from an estate of Joan Winters. I believe the library director contacted you, Tom, to...
Taken care.
Okay.
Paper's been signed.
The barrel vaulted roof is finished, and it looks very good. Chiefs to Race had put together an evacuation plan, and assembly is recommended to go to the Cultural Center, or OEM, excuse me. There is an event on Sunday, October 23rd at 2 o'clock. It is Friends of the Library event at Total Wine. It's beer and food from around the world. Sanducci's, Fuki Sushi, Isan Blue, and Green Papaya, thank you. They're donating the food for this. Tickets are $45, and it's limited to 40 people. So, and they're halfway done with the selling. So if you are interested, please go to the library and purchase your tickets. And from the Shade Tree, they do have their fall planting list. They have estimates for stump removal. The price has been increasing, and Liz has spoken with John Lynch about purchasing a machine, and he's saying that if that's the case, they'll need additional staff to work that machine. They did submit their 5-year management plan to the state for review and approval. Their next meeting is October 20th at 7 p.m. So Tom, if you want to go to that one. And there's 2 tree projects involving the Scouts and Eagle Scouts this fall. The Board of Education, their next meeting is Wednesday, October 5th, 7:30 at Roosevelt School. They welcome new staff. They have a lot of new staff now. Jessica Barbeau, Kristen Corcoran, Cara Guadara, Leah Del Giudice, Allison Israel, Sabrina Johnson, Danielle Kowalczyk, Gianna Kowalczyk, Kathy Lee, Laura Lombardi, Casey Schretner, Andrea Sicklari, and Brian Urban are all new members of the Roosevelt School staff. And that's my report for tonight.
I don't know if you know, I was reading in the Shade Tree minutes, I don't know if I was reading in the most recent, was there 200 and something stumps that they had said?
Yeah.
I'm sure they know the number, but could they get us what the aggregate inches are, so we would know what it would cost to do all of them?
Yes. Because they're way behind.
Because it seems to me, and depending on the budget, maybe something that we put money into next year and just say, let's get rid of the stumps for a year, and not pay for plantings, and do that later on. It just seems like one of those things that just
They
keeps
can't
lingering.
catch up.
So, but maybe we need to look at the cost benefit of doing that, and do the number, so.
Well, I know that they've always not wanted to plant, because every year not planting is just putting the growth behind.
Mhm.
But I'll mention that when I
I
send.
just think it's something we should consider, that's all.
I'll mention that.
Councilman Davis?
We will be having the farmer's market tomorrow, October. And it was backed by popular demand, and we will continue on a weekly basis depending upon the vendors. But mostly all of them are going to be there tomorrow. I went to the Green Team meeting on September 20th, and they were trying to plan for River Edge Day. I was able to get them contact information on those LED light bulb boxes that Origel had given out. So they're working on that. They're going to have their garden cleanup on Woodland Avenue. I went to the SCORE meeting, and at this time there is no need to try to get the Tuesday bus. They don't have enough activity. And on last Wednesday, I attended the Emergency Management Council meeting, which was very well attended, I think. I don't know if you're going to speak about it, Mayor, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I won't go into it, but it was great. And it's, to identify high-risk people in town in case of storms or emergencies, and everybody was working to get names and get a good list for the town.
Yeah, thank you. Councilman Bird.
I have no comments.
Councilman Papalayo.
Yes, I met with the Assistant Fire Chief and Deputy Chief about their budget, had a preliminary conversation with them. They're moving towards creating that for next year. I also stayed for the department meeting with the fire department. The question of sirens came up, and we had a brief conversation about that. And that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
No comment. Okay, Councilman Steve.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Interrupted. Couple of lines. One thing I wanted to bring up at work session, but I'll bring it up now. And I respect everybody's position as council people, but I think we're sort of deviating in some respects from our liaison protocol. And we have, in my opinion, too many council people calling too many individual department heads to get problem solved. And what's happening is I believe that the department heads we're not all getting the same information as a result of that. So all I would do is, if you really have a question regarding a specific department or a specific complaint that should be referred to a certain department, please go through the liaisons, go through Stephanie, so it's all documented, and then we all can have the benefit of knowing what the problem was and how it was resolved. Because, like I said, there's been some miscommunications, and I think the information going to different sources, and no one knows who's been being told what, so I'd like to try to keep that consistent. I want to publicly thank the River Edge Police, Neil Carroll and Chief Storace, for at least keeping me in the loop of all the events that were happening last Thursday with regard to the terrible accident in Hoboken. Obviously, we know the train did go through River Edge. We do know there were residents who were on the train, and we're very sorry that one lady had been killed, and we're thankful that nobody from River Edge was seriously injured. But it was very tense there for a little while, not knowing, and they were really good at trying to find out. And I give credit to Cory Booker's office. They reached out to me in the governor's office later on, and when I said basically what I want to know is if we have any residents who are hurt, because that's something that we should know right away. And they were very proactive in getting us information and keeping us up to date. So I thank the borough people who also helped in that regard. Following up on what Councilwoman Davis mentioned, we did have our initial meeting of our local emergency management council, and I was really more than pleased with the turnout. I think we had 15 or 16 members from all the various constituencies. Everybody seemed very enthusiastic and optimistic that by pooling our resources, we're going to be able to prepare better for emergencies. And right now, with the specific goal of identifying, I guess what the term has been, vulnerable persons, so they can be accounted for and taken care of in the event of emergency. And like I had said, and I was grateful that the Record actually put this in the newspaper, because it's not just your large events like a Sandy or something like that, but we can have smaller events and even a local snowstorm where you don't want any of our vulnerable residents being negatively impacted or accidentally neglected because we don't know where they are or they have specific needs. So I look forward to Director Storace continuing that initiative. I think it's off to a very good start, and it's got a cross-section of support from all the members on the council, and I think it's going to be a very positive thing for the borough. I don't know, you would mention, we had a meeting between members of the Rec Commission, Councilwoman Bastidi, Councilman Bartolone, and myself, and the Board of Education, talking about the use of the fields and looking at what interlocal agreements we may need to evaluate and change going forward. I think it was a very positive first step, and I look forward to continuing that dialogue. Alan and I had a meeting this week with the NJDOT and our consultants with regard to our Safe Route to School TAP grant, and the consensus from the professionals and the DOT was that we are not going to build a sidewalk on the cliff. We're going to take that section of sidewalk and continue it northward to have full connectivity up to the diner and right down to Wayne. We're gonna improve the intersection at Wayne and Bogart with improved crosswalks. We talked about doing the crossers for the crosswalks and the same improvements at the intersection of Continental and Bogart in front of Roosevelt. And then the third, or the third task would be to improve the paper street of, I guess it's Oak, down by middle school. We were thinking about, and they'll come up with some concepts, almost making it almost like a walking path, bike path, maybe more on the model of what we did at Brookside, so it looks more aesthetically pleasing than just one straight runway. But the consultants will scope it all out, give us the cost estimates, and hopefully we'll be within the allocated budget. And the DOT seemed very pleased with all the improvements as we were outlining them. I think Alan will concur. I left the meeting early, but I guess at the end, we're just going to wait for them to give us the scope, the finalized scope, which we'll obviously bring back for everybody to look at and approve. I had the pleasure of attending a naturalization ceremony at Newbridge Landing last week. I was invited by Mary Donahue as the host mayor, where they swore in 23 new citizens from, I believe, 16 countries. And Mary didn't mince her words. She said, you'll find it a powerful and inspiring ceremony, and it certainly was. If anybody can attend in the future, I would certainly recommend it, because it really was very heartening to see how the enthusiasm and the pride in these people becoming American citizens. It really was quite something. I was very glad to attend it. I believe we all got copies of a letter to Dick Ferry from the Fialco family, thanking him regarding the 9/11 ceremony we had. And Dick had called me today, and he said that he wanted me to thank them publicly for their expression of support, because he appreciated it. And last, I will, wish our Jewish friends Shana Tova, a little belated, but and wish them a happy, healthy New Year for us all. And happy Columbus Day to Italian Americans, or Italian American Italians, and people who like Columbus Day or Italian food or whatever. And I still think you have to recognize the importance of Christopher Columbus in opening the way, the path for immigration to this country, because the country would not be here otherwise. With that, I have no more comments. Can I please have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.